Hello, how are you today? I welcome you to another English language class. Previously, in this series of lessons, we looked at how verbs and adjectives can be made to become nouns. And you will recall that I did call the process of making verbs and adjectives become nouns nominalization. We also learned how adjectives can be made to become nouns and verbs. Today will be the third in the series of these lectures, and we are going to be looking at a new area. This time we are looking at how to form verbs from nouns and adjectives. In other words, forming verbs from nouns and adjectives. In English language, you can form verbs from words that are not verbs. I mean from nouns. And when you do so, then nouns become verbs. Well, how possible is this? It is possible with the use of prefixes and suffixes. You will recall that earlier on in nominalization and even in the formation of adjectives, I did tell you that prefixes and suffixes are very important to the formation of words in English. Now, some of the prefixes and suffixes you will be introduced to in this lesson today, you may have heard about them in the previous lessons. So, look straight on the screen and you will find some of them. For example, on the left hand side of the screen, you would see prefixes, while on the right hand side, you would find suffixes. So for the prefixes, we have attachments such as en, be, de, im, em, ac, re, and so on and so forth. Then for the suffixes, we have ifi, ise, en, ate, n, and ing, plus a whole lot of them. Then again, we also have another method that we introduce that can also help us to form verbs from words that are nouns, and that is vowel change. So, having known these prefixes and suffixes, I will be introducing you to how we use them in this process. Now, let's consider example 1. In example 1, we are adding prefixes to nouns to make them become verbs. And right on the first box there, you find out the words I listed are just nouns. Right on the second box, the words I have there are verbs. Then the third box just contains examples that will help us understand the process. So should I have words like courage and danger? Courage and danger. Now look at those two words. Both of them are nouns. Remember what a noun is. A noun just names something, names a person, names a place, or name a thing. So let's say courage and danger are things. Now, how do I make them become verbs? I simply add the prefix en. And what has happened? Courage becomes encourage, whereas danger becomes endanger. So you can see that in examples like our teacher encourages us to study hard, or in smoking endangers one's life. In other words, smoking puts one's life in danger. You see what we have done there to make a noun become a verb? That's very spectacular. Alright, let's still play more of this game. Now, all of you know that friends, of course, is a noun. Now, should I add be in front of friend, and I have befriend, and that means to make someone a friend, to make something a friend. Okay, so as the examination date drew closer, I befriended my books. In other words, I made friends with my books. Now there are more examples you can see on the screen. We will look at a few more examples, like the word knowledge, of course a noun, and I have added the prefix AC. Now I have acknowledge, a verb. Alright, my sister, or rather I can say I acknowledge your presence at the party. I acknowledged your presence at the party. Okay, for another similar example, you have company, and I also added AC in front of it. I have accompany. So I can also say my sister will accompany me to see the doctor. Okay, so accompany, of course, has become a verb which has been formed from a noun, company. So this is how it is done. Now there is another thing that could also help us to form verbs from nouns, and that is called vowel change. And what do we do in vowel change? We simply change the vowel sound in the noun to make a verb. Now, assuming I have a word food, remember the vowel sound in the word food is the double O sound there, which gives us oo. Okay, now changing it to a verb, I change the oo sound to e, and now I have feed. So from food to feed. The farmer feeds his chickens with mashed food. Song, to sing. Song, a noun. Sing, a verb. I have learned to sing Mariah Carey's songs. So with these examples, you can see how words that were originally nouns have been made to become verbs. Of course, what has helped us here? Prefixes. Amazing, not so? Alright, let's also see how suffixes help. Now we have adjectives on the first column of the table I have. Then we have verbs on the second column, and we have examples as well. Remember, we are adding suffixes, this time to adjectives, to make them become verbs. Now look at some of the words on the first column there. Real, visual, deep, soft, simple, just, wide, and so on and so forth. All of these words are adjectives. Are you still doubting, or sorry, are you still imagining what an adjective is? I will remind you. An adjective is a word that describes a noun or pronoun. You recall, not so? Alright. Now, in the real sense of it, I can make adjectives to become verbs. And what is going to help me do so are suffixes. Now the first suffixes I have employed here is ise. Now right at the back of the main word, which is real, I've added ise. And what do I have? I have realize. I have visualize for visual. Do not pay attention to the discrepancy in the spelling ise and ize. I'm just trying to show examples of American spelling and British spelling. So either ways they are correct. Now children hardly realize. Children hardly realize. Realize is to know. Okay, children hardly realize what adults suffer to care for them. Now from real, an adjective, I have formed the verb realize, and you can see how I have used it in an example in sentence. Now let's pick the word deep, which when formed into a verb we add en as a suffix. It now becomes deepen. So I could say that the newly wedded couple vowed to deepen, to make deeper their love for each other. So also applies to simple and simplify. Just take note of those attachments on yellow ink. They are all suffixes. So simple, adjective. Simplify, verb. That's make it simple, to make simple. Our math teacher asked us to simplify the equations. I know Mrs. Palmer and Mr. Gabriel will always ask you to simplify equations, not so. Okay, Mr. Ken wouldn't be asking you to simplify equations, but sometimes I could ask you to simplify your sentence. Okay, alright, that's by the way. Now I also have such example as wide and widen. The room has been widened to accommodate more guests. Easy, something that has much eyes on it. Okay, then icing, to make it easy. Okay, the baker added more icing to the cake. So this is how it works. I want you to note something. Some adjectives have to drop their own suffixes to become verbs. All of the examples we have here, those adjectives have taken suffixes, but in some cases an adjective may have to drop the suffix in it so that it can become a verb. And an example of that, there are no much examples of that in English, so I have picked just one of the examples I could lay my hands on, and that's growing. Growing, one will be thinking that growing isn't it a verb? Yes, it's a verb. Of course, it's a verb in the progressive tense. But then growing can also become an adjective. Okay? For example, I can say growing plants. Growing plants. Growing there is describing a plant. And of course, adjective describes nouns. Okay, so growing as an adjective will drop ing to become grow, a verb. It's a special case, and I thought it wise to bring it to your notice. Okay, so should one be asking you, what adjective can we make from the words grow? It's growing. How have you found this lesson? Isn't it interesting? For sure, I know. It's been a very interesting lessons in all of the series, beginning with nominalization. So we ask ourselves, what have we learned so far in this lesson? In this lesson, we have come to understand that prefixes and suffixes enable nouns and adjectives to become verbs. And all of the illustrations we have looked at have showed us how these are done. Secondly, we have also learned that there are cases where vowel change will allow a verb, will allow a noun to become a verb. And you will recall that in the example of food and feed, or in the example of song and sing. So take note of those ones. So what have I learned, or what is the benefit of what I have learned so far in this topic? 1. If you learn to nominalize words, it will help you to widen your English vocabulary. If you learn to nominalize words, or you learn to make words that are not nouns to become nouns, make words that were not originally adjectives to become adjective, or words that were not verbs to become verbs, it's such a good skill you have learned. It will help you so much in your communication skill, and you wouldn't be speaking like someone who has not been exposed to English grammar. So it's quite interesting learning all of these. Once again, I am very glad to be with you. I hope to see you in the next class. Bye.